Live pictures of Times Square as the business and financial capital of the world gets blanketed by snow. New York City spends up to $3 million for every inch of snow removal. But where to get the funds for the big plow? And what if there's another one that heads into New York City? Right now, the city has a projected $5.4 billion budget shortfall in newly minted Mayor Zohran Mamdani's plan to raise taxes to fill the hole. If the state legislature does not pass his wealth tax, a flat tax on those earnings those earning more than $1 million, he vows instead to impose a 9.5% property tax hike, which would impact more than 100,000 commercial buildings. The Partnership for New York City is a business advocacy group representing more than 300 top businesses. We're joined by Steve Fulop. He is the partnership's new president and CEO. Steve, welcome to the show, and new position here. What are you hearing from New York City's biggest businesses? Well, let's call them New York's biggest employers about either of Mayor Mamdani's tax plans.
Well, so we have 800,000 employees collectively within kind of the partnership umbrella. So it's the largest employers that you would think of, names that you know. And people are generally concerned. I mean, the administration has been in place for 2 months, and we've had conversations around income tax increases, corporate tax increases, now property tax increases. So, if you're looking for a place to invest, you tend to look for places with certainty. And the environment right now in New York City is anything but certain.
Well, you represent small, medium, big businesses, but 300 certainly among the biggest. And those are ServiceNow, JP Morgan. I mean, we can put up so many of the logos of the companies you represent. What are you hearing from them?
Well, look, I think that there is real concern around, New York City policies moving far and far to the left and being less competitive relative to Texas, Florida, and other states. I mean, for the first time, you see more financial service jobs in Texas than you do in New York. People don't realize that. And many of the CEOs, we represent the largest corporations. It's only the large corporations. And many of them are saying that their plans for growth and expansion in New York are really put on the back burner now as they explore elsewhere. Like I said, I think a lot of the rhetoric at a City Hall is concerning. It's still early days, so hopefully, we get to right the ship over the next couple months. But, we're kind of wait and see right now.
Mayor Mamdani's tax hike plan, you could look at it as a threat, or you could look at it as, in essence, an inevitability. Because there is a hole, and by June, he, by law, needs to balance the budget. Are you bracing your members for something like this?
Well, look, he originally said there was a $12 billion gap, and we said the same day that we don't think there's a $12 billion gap. And then a couple of days later was revised to $7 billion based on Wall Street overperforming. We think that $7 billion is going to shrink further as collections come in April, and you'll see that gap be relatively small. But, obviously the rhetoric is concerning. And, there's a bigger picture that, Texas embraces the energy industry. California, despite being regulated very heavily, embraces the tech industry. Yeah. Massachusetts, biotech. When you think about financial services here in New York, the success is often met with skepticism, which is really not productive for growing a corporate environment here.
Steve, what's the worst case scenario here? I talk to CEOs who say, Liz, I'll just leave. You start taxing me so much that it doesn't make it worth my while, I'll move the whole business out of New York.
Yeah. I think there's a reality that Bank of New York is not going to leave New York, and Goldman Sachs is always going to have a presence here. But what's lost on people on the far left is that you don't need a mass exodus of 50% or 80% of these employers. A handful of them leaving will have a huge impact on the budget. And when you talk about the wealthiest people, the wealthiest 1,000 or 3,000 people in New York, you don't need half of them to leave. You need 5 or 10 of them, and it'll put a hole in your budget because of the amount that they pay. Now, everybody has a tripwire. So it depends on that individual person. But when you start talking about corporate taxes at 22% relative to New Jersey being 11%, and when you start to talk about your income taxes being upwards of 52, 54%, you're getting close to a conversation that nearly everybody's having about, is it better to leave than to stay? And that's the concerning thing, because you don't need everybody to leave.
You don't want everybody to leave.
No,
They're
you
the
don't want
ones
everybody to leave.
who employ people.
You want them to stay, and New York has a lot going for us, but you got to be conscious on creating an environment that protects and fosters investment, and certainty is that.
And I get that the mayor wants better affordability for people who are making under $100,000. We'll continue to watch to see what happens. You got a fight ahead of you, Steve. Thanks for joining us.